Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, live and direct on a Monday afternoon. The news is flying fast and furious on the first day of the NFL's legal tampering period. What did I do, Brendan Dworzinski?
Dan Lucero, you did not do anything. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
This has been a wild day. I'm great. This has been a wild day of NFL free agency news.
It most certainly has. That's Brendan. I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, live on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, live on Facebook, WIBW News.
And we're going to get to a bunch of it coming up here in a moment throughout the rest of the show. Chiefs have been busy today. Spencer Dupuis is going to join us a little bit later on in the show today.
Yes, he is.
His Washington Commanders just made a gigantic trade. He's in a studio taking care of some business for our ag department. I can see him 2 studios over through a glass window.
Yes.
And I saw him see the breaking news that his Commanders just acquired Laramie Tunsil from the Houston Texans. 1, I don't get what the hell the Texans are doing. 2, I could see like 10 more years of life breathed into Spencer as he checked his phone. It was very, very funny to see it happen. I'm very honored that I got to experience that.
I'm glad. You had me a little concerned in the sense of, if I
everyone here laughing as soon as the show starts.
Yeah, you're cracking up. I can see you on the video screen doing that. And I'm like, uh-oh. What'd I say? Did I call them the Oakland Raiders again? Did I give the wrong
San Diego Chargers?
Did I introduce myself as Spencer Dupuis? Because I've done that before. It could have been anything.
No, that is still funny.
Nah, it is. It is still funny. But I am Dan Lucero, and that is Brendan Dworzinski. And there's a lot of NFL to talk about today. The Kansas City Chiefs have been busy, like all other 32 NFL teams, on the first day of the legal tampering period. They've got a new tackle and a new backup running back, both of them coming from the San Francisco 49ers. We'll tell you about the newest members of the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as a breakdown of 2 old Chiefs that are going to stick around for at least a little bit longer. A 1-year deal for Hollywood Brown, a 3-year deal for Nick Bolton, consummated over the weekend. So we will talk about all of the Chiefs' business on this Monday. Also, ton going on in the NFL. Myles Garrett decided, actually, I like money more than the idea of winning a Super Bowl somewhere else, and he's staying in Cleveland. The Seahawks blew up their roster and then decided, no, wait, actually, we'd still like to try to be good. But then they said that on one side of their mouth, and on the other side, they signed Sam Darnold and gave him $55 million guaranteed. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. We're going to talk about that maybe a little bit later on. I may need a beverage.
All of our teams have had big days. Well, my team's big day is adding a guard, which is very on brand. Your team, we'll get to it.
We'll talk about it. Yeah,
Spencer's having a great day. Chiefs are having a big day.
Yes, Chiefs are having a big day.
Chiefs are gambling. I kind of like it. Like the Chiefs went to the casino. The Chiefs are going to Prairie Band with their moves today. I kind of like it.
Steelers obviously made a big move over the weekend, trading for DK Metcalf. Devontae Adams has a new home. Josh Allen has big money. Justin Fields got what? From the New York Jets?
He must be the best hang ever.
It
must just be so much fun to chill with Justin Fields.
One of the all-time great hangs. We have plenty of NFL to get to throughout the show today. And joining us at the bottom of this hour to help us make heads and tails of it, the great Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Matt will join us at the bottom of this hour, and we'll ask him all the questions that we have and maybe many of the questions that you have about the start of NFL free agency and what the Chiefs have done. We're going to get to some college hoops as well. The streak is now 42 senior day victories in a row for the Kansas Jayhawks. They did not make easy work of it in the second half, but KU beats a good Arizona team, finally beats a quality opponent. Feels like it had been a while since that had happened. And maybe in the process, they restored the vibes. Maybe, just maybe.
I can't believe they've done this to me. I didn't think I would get to this
personally.
Point. I've been very mature about this, I think, for much of the season. I can't believe they've brought me back in. There was one specific play. KU fans, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. There was one moment on Saturday that made me feel something I have not felt probably since KU beat Duke this season. And we'll get to a very special moment for a couple of somewhat beleaguered KU seniors.
So we'll get to some of that. We'll also talk some Royals because Big Jac did it again yesterday. Boy, did he ever do it.
Now, Let me bounce something off of you. The Jactus League.
I like it. I really like it.
I think I kind of like it too. You got to be careful when you're making Jack puns.
Yes, you do.
But I kind of like the Jactus League.
But if you are looking forward as a Royals fan to watching Jack stack some RBI at Kauffman Stadium,
got to get that deal done
immediately.
Jack, hit us up. We will negotiate on your behalf.
We will be
with
your
Fiorella's Jack stack.
Yes.
We just need a small payment of, I don't know, a few dinners.
Yes.
I'll take a few meals. I don't need cash. I'll take trade.
I think my wife would settle for a few slices of the carrot cake.
Ooh, God, that sounds good.
It's just outrageously good. And I'm not even a big carrot cake guy like that. Anyhow, Jac Caglianone hit another spring training home run, and it is getting very hard not to get irrationally excited about the big fella. So we will get to some of that as well. We are with you until 5:45 today. We are making way for some Westwood One coverage of the road to the Final Four. Another tournament ticket will be punched tonight in the SoCon championship game. I think that's Furman and Wofford tonight.
Low-key, a conference tournament that always delivers. Remember a couple years ago, they had those dueling buzzer beaters?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great conference tournament.
They've got the 5 seed and the 6 seed playing.
And it's, you know what the nice thing, too? It's teams you've heard of. Like, if you follow college basketball, you're like, oh, yeah, Furman, Wofford, yeah, I know about.
Furman had that win over Virginia.
Yeah,
that upset win a couple of years ago that made me a lot of money on the Furman money line.
Fletcher McGee at Wofford a few years ago had a big run in March. So
not to be confused with Fletcher Terrell, your color commentator.
No, very
football broadcast.
Very different people.
Completely different people.
Fletcher, great athlete. Fletcher Terrell, great athlete. Fletcher McGee, probably making a lot of money selling insurance right now.
Good shooter. Really good at horse.
Really good at one thing.
So we've got some college basketball coming your way tonight. So special coverage as we get you set for the NCAA tournament. Of course, we'll have extensive coverage from Westwood One on the NCAA tournament starting next week. But we'll bring you a little bonus game tonight, the SoCon Championship, and to get us out of here 15 minutes early. So that is what we've got coming up today. Also, everything else you've come to know and love from a Monday edition of the show, 580 Sports Talk headlines, what is wrong with you, good, bad, ugly from the weekend, and much more. And your comments. We would love to hear from you on today's program. If you're watching the show on YouTube, the channel name is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And jump into the live chat. We'd love to hear from you in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also text the program, the text line number, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. All right, let's get to the Chiefs, and let's get to what was done over the weekend first and check those boxes, because two players that we were all in relative agreement. Let's phrase it differently. One player we thought that it made a lot of sense for them to bring back, and one player we thought it was really likely that they were going to bring back.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chiefs got both of those moves done over the weekend. The first one was 3 years, $45 million, and $30 million guaranteed for linebacker Nick Bolton. So it's a $15 million a year deal. First 2 years are guaranteed. Third year, you can play some salary cap games with it if you want to. The 28-year-old Bolton will stay in the middle of the Chiefs defense for the foreseeable future. I don't remember. I think it was you, Brendan, that made the point that Bolton's value to the Chiefs is probably higher than it is for any other team because he has the intricate understanding of the Steve Spagnuolo defense. He's kind of the connective tissue in the middle. And for whatever complaints you might have, and they are fair ones, because Nick Bolton is not a perfect player.
No.
I would not put him in the elite tier of linebackers. I thought at one point he had a chance to be an all-pro linebacker. I don't think he's going to quite get there. Pro Bowl, sure. All-pro, I don't think he's going to get there as a player. He's a tier below those guys, like what a Fred Warner has been, what a Bobby Wagner has been, even what a Zach Bond was last year for the Eagles. Nick Bolton's not quite that guy. But what he is really important to this Chiefs defense as the connective tissue in the middle. They didn't go up to the Zach Bond number of $17 million a year. They landed at $15 million a year to keep their guy in the middle wearing the green dot in the Steve Spagnuolo defense. Our guy Matt Derrick put it this way on Blue Sky. If in Spags you trust, then in Nick Bolton you trust too, because that's how important his role is in that defense. So no surprise, Nick Bolton is back. Hollywood Brown also coming back 1 year up to $11 million in terms of incentives and escalators. The timing of it was interesting because it came just hours after news had dropped that Xavier Worthy had been arrested for a domestic incident. That, of course, turned out to be a scenario where the charges were almost immediately dropped.
Yeah.
And really kind of a unfortunate situation. It sounds like for Xavier Worthy that he's going through right now. But the timing of it was interesting, but I don't think that had anything to do with the Chiefs' decision to bring a guy back who they had really high hopes for in the offense this past season. And then we just never got to see it materialize because he got hurt on the first freaking play of the preseason. Just wonder how different the Chiefs season offensively would have looked if that doesn't happen.
No, I think that's an entirely fair question because, again, as much as I believe that the biggest loss the Chiefs had all year was Rashee Rice, and that really changed the ceiling for the offense, the idea that, okay, you could have at least gotten 4 games with the two of them playing in tandem, and then maybe you can massage over some of those issues a little bit better. Your offense probably, there would have been seams, but it would have been closer to seamless of a transition. And you wouldn't have had to have asked as much of Xavier Worthy right away. Now, Worthy came on down the stretch better than I thought he'd perform at any point during his rookie season. But having that extra assistance from Hollywood really would have, I think, helped. It's a good fit. Have we seen the structure of this deal yet? Because I know it was up to $11 million, but as Matt Verderame, I believe it was, pointed this out on social media, and I mean, if you follow the NFL, you know this too. If you see that a guy made or got a contract for 1 year up to $11 million, that up to always does a lot of lifting. Like I would not frankly be shocked if this is almost identical to what he got last year, the 1 for 6, with just a bunch of escalators and incentives. I would not be surprised at all if that's what this deal is. Saves some cap, gives him a little benefit. He clearly wants to be there. The Chiefs clearly want him back. Feels like a good fit. I'm happy with it. I don't think he was the highest ceiling wide receiver in this group of free agents. Devontae Adams getting released, he's clearly in a different group. DK Metcalf being available even as a trade, that's a different group. I think the guys we talked about between Hollywood Brown and Christian Kirk possibly in a trade or free agency, Tyler Lockett, I think, was in a similar group. I think a couple of those other guys may have a higher ceiling. Lockett is almost certainly going to Las Vegas to team up again with Pete Carroll. But he's a good player. He's a useful player. And again, if that's your wide receiver 3, feel great. You're very content with him as a wide receiver 3.
Man, you could get a chance to kind of build on what you were hoping that you would have going into this season. And who knows at which point we'll get to see that. Hopefully there won't be any preseason injuries. And we'll see about Rashee Rice's both return from his ACL injury and return from, if there is indeed a suspension handed down by the NFL, it's still kind of hanging over him like a sword. But the Chiefs put themselves, I think, in good position with their receiver core. You feel really good about 1, 2, and 3 entering next season. And that's not been the case, really, for the Chiefs. Because last year, you thought you had that, and you lose Hollywood Brown right away. And then the year before that, you didn't have nearly that kind of talent lined up at 1, 2, 3. So I think that's a net positive, certainly, for the offense. Bolton deal, you think that makes sense, both sides?
Yeah, and I've been kind of at the charge, the front of the charge that says, yeah, I mean, I don't love Nick Bolton's game. I think what he does pretty well, but I think it is too limited to kind of build your defense around it. That being said, you didn't get to the Zach Bond number. You're really looking at a 2+1 contract. So 2 years are going to have most of guaranteed money. The third year, like you said, you'll be able to do some chicanery with the contract there with the salary cap. You can stretch it out. Maybe you keep in that third year. You smooth out the cap hits a little bit. That's fine. It's all right. I don't. If they had gone too much above this, even to the Bond number, I would have said, I don't love it. But it's fine. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And you know what you're getting with him. And you know the strengths that he brings to the table, but also you know the weaknesses. And frankly, the Chiefs linebacker core is built to cover some of those weaknesses that Nick Bolton has. Drew Tranquil is better in coverage and is also a smart guy. Leo Chanel is the most athletic of the group. It can do some different things laterally. It's fine. I'm not going to complain about it. This doesn't change the kind of player he is for good or for bad, but I'm not going to waste my energy thinking, oh, well, I would have only given him upwards of $13.8 million a year. No, it's fine. Cap's going to go up again by $15 million next year. It's going to look like a bargain. It's fine.
where were you going to upgrade the linebacker core? I guess would have been my question.
You couldn't, because like how many players that could have been available would have been an improvement. Zach Bond would have been, right? Zach Bond was never hitting free agency.
No.
He is the perfect Vic Fangio linebacker. He's kind of built. He's a little bit bigger than Roquan Smith, not quite as much of a natural athlete, but it's the same kind of thing that Vic Fangio had with Smith when he was younger in Chicago. That's kind of the role he's put Zach Bond into, had to change his position, but it's worked out really well. It's such a perfect fit for Fangio. Like, there's no way they were letting him walk. So if you're not getting that, any sort of addition, any improvement, you're getting a minor, barely noticeable improvement for a definitely noticeable pay increase. So and settle for this. It's fine.
And whoever then you bring in has to learn how to be the defense's connective tissue, where Nick Bolton knows that, understands it. And look, a lot of the Steve Spagnuolo defense is very complicated stuff. And
it's extremely complicated.
You have to have somebody with the green dot who knows how it's all supposed to look pre-snap, knows how to communicate, knows the verbiage. It just made sense that he was going to come back. He was never not coming back. And the fact that they were able to do something before he got to free agency and let anybody bid him up and didn't get to what I would have considered market resetting money or elite linebacker money, I think the Chiefs did really well with that one. Those are the guys you know. What about the new guys? 2 signings for the Chiefs today coming from San Francisco. Is one of them next year's starting left tackle? We'll talk about Jalen Moore and Elijah Mitchell after we take our first break on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 326 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Brendan rocking with you on this Monday. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate you. Matt Verderame is going to join us in about 10 minutes to make heads or tails of a wild weekend and day one of NFL free agency. We'll have lots of reaction to the biggest moves of the weekend and today. But the Kansas City Chiefs have made two moves today. The first one, I got to be honest, this was not a name that I knew off the top of my head. It was not one that I saw on my phone and go, oh, yeah, him. I had to do some digging on Jalen Moore, the former San Francisco 49er tackle, who is now the Chiefs' newest offensive tackle. Spent the last 4 seasons with the 49ers where he made just 12 starts. Essentially was, and I've seen him described this way in multiple places, the understudy to Trent Williams, which is a pretty good guy to study under as left tackles go. He was a 5th-round pick out of Western Michigan, started 5 games this last season, 2 the 2 years previous to that, and 3 games as a rookie back in 2021. He has not committed a penalty in either of the last 2 seasons, so he's got that going for him, and allowed just 2 sacks on well over 200 pass rush snaps this past season when he did get in the game. The deal is 2 years, $30 million, $21.24 million guaranteed. So a 1 year, $21 million contract, essentially, for Jalen Moore. And when you look at how the left tackle market unfolded, Ronnie Stanley never made it to free agency. He signed an extension yesterday with the Baltimore Ravens, not an extension, but a new contract. So the top of the market never made it to market. So that left, after Stanley signed, guys like Cam Robinson, who wasn't very good last year, Morgan Moses, who's old, Tyron Smith, who's old, Jedrick Wills from Cleveland, who hasn't been very good in his career.
Shot.
Once you saw Dan Moore got $50 million guaranteed, that was going to be top of the market money, what a top end free agent left tackle in this class was going to cost. The Chiefs deciding to take a shot on some upside with Jalen Moore certainly makes a lot more sense. You still don't have a lot of certainty at left tackle, but at least you have a guy who comes from a good organization, has studied at the foot of one of the greatest to ever do it, and doesn't have that much tread on his tires, which you can view as a positive or a negative, or wear on the tires. So my gut reaction to this is, like, it's probably sensible not to go give 45, 50 million guaranteed to a Cam Robinson caliber player with the hope that Jalen Moore could be that kind of player for much cheaper. But you got to believe in your ability to coach him up. This is a bet on Andy Heck as much as it's on Jalen Moore.
Yeah, there's a couple things here. I understand and appreciate the swing the Chiefs are taking. I think this is a high risk, high reward kind of move. High risk in the sense that you just might not be better. Now, I don't think he'll be as bad as Wanye Morris was this year, to be honest with you, or Kingsley was in those first 2 games at tackle. But I think there's a real chance that this doesn't quite click the way you hope it does, and you don't get better at left tackle. I also think that if you believe in Andy Reid and Andy Heck, and you should, you think, okay, can you get him to Andrew Wiley caliber protection on the edge? Because you won a Super Bowl with Andrew Wiley as a starting tackle.
Again, like, it was never realistic to expect that the Chiefs were going to end up with, like, all-pro caliber or Pro Bowl caliber even left tackle play.
Especially once Stanley resigned.
You don't need that to win in the NFL. You just need to not be a disaster. You see how far not being a disaster got the Chiefs, got them all the way to the Super Bowl.
It's an old football dilemma. What would you rather your offensive line be made up of? 1 A+ and 4 C- D+ guys, or 5 Bs? And the Chiefs don't even have to worry about that second one because they've got an A at center.
Yeah,
they've got a B+ at right guard.
Strong B+.
Yeah, like they're going to be fine. I don't think this move is a disaster. I don't think it's necessarily like franchise changing in a good way or a bad way. I also don't think this should change the approach in the draft, to be honest with you. Because look, let's say the Chiefs find someone, let's say Kelvin Banks from Texas, random name, slides all the way to 31. Some people think he could be top 10. Some folks think, I don't know. Consistency is a question. He might fall to the end of the first round. If he's there, Chiefs move up, get him late 20s, whatever. Okay. Best case scenario, you need him and he's a franchise left tackle or right tackle. Worst case scenario, you're one of like 3 teams in the whole NFL that has tackle depth. Okay. Like, great. Yeah. I don't necessarily know if the Chiefs will use a first rounder on a tackle. I think it should be on the table because you do have to consider long-term. You got one more year of Juwan Taylor before, and Matt Derrick confirmed this for us, you're going to let him walk or you're going to cut him. This deal with Moore is short-term. So you've got to figure out long-term options anyway. I don't think this should change the draft strategy at all. And it also might just come down to this, Dan, and Matt mentioned this too on Friday's show. Maybe you're just throwing numbers at the situation. This is a workable contract. Maybe you're saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to bring a street free agent in during camp, and we're going to get a draft pick. And we're going to have 4 or 5 dudes, along with Kingsley and Wanye, battling it out for that job. And somebody's going to win it. Maybe not Kingsley. Maybe he's just going to slide in at guard, and that's it. But 4 guys are going to battle for it, and somebody is going to have to win the job by default. Maybe that's what the Chiefs end up doing.
And it gives you a chance to take another swing at a high ceiling prospect at left tackle with one of your day 2 picks, the way the Chiefs did last year with Kingsley Suamataia. They ended up starting Kingsley. That didn't work out. But if this year's version of Kingsley, whoever that might be in the draft, doesn't have to play year 1, that might be better for their development in the long term. So eases the pressure on the Chiefs draft. Yep. It eases like their need to draft a tackle, especially with your first pick. That ratchets down a little bit, bringing in a guy. And again, look, I think you can do a lot worse for bringing in a lineman than a guy who, for the last 4 years, has backed up Trent Williams. Like, I don't think you get great by osmosis, but I do think you learn if you're a teammate of one of the best to ever do it. The other signing that the Chiefs made today, also a former San Francisco 49er, running back Elijah Mitchell. If you have forgotten the name, that's understandable because he didn't play last season. He missed all of 2024 with a hamstring injury, had missed a bunch of games due to injury his first 3 seasons as well. But when he's been on the field in 27 NFL games, he's averaging over 4.5 yards per carry. He's got 4.35 speed, or at least he did before the NFL scouting combine, a former 6th-round pick, 1 year, $3.5 million. With Samaje Perine off to Cincinnati, the Chiefs needed running back depth, and Elijah Mitchell looks like he'll get an opportunity to be some of that running back depth this next year. Would have liked the player better younger with that speed. I see the vision, trying to get a little faster at running back. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he's got the pass catching or pass blocking chops with Samaje Perine. I don't think this is it for the Chiefs at the running back position by any means.
No, you got to draft someone. Again, same thing. This is a much lower risk. I mean, $3.5 million for 1 year of a running back who might, even if he ends up your 3rd string running back, whatever, it's fine. Very low risk, moderate-ish reward if he gets a full season healthy, but you can't predict that because he's never played more than 11 games in a season and hasn't played football since 2023. So it's whatever. It's a flyer. It's fine. It's not usually what you see on the first day of free agency, but it's fine. You still have to draft someone. And I would still probably use one of those 3rd-round picks on a running back, or one of your top 4 picks I would use on a running back if I was the Chiefs. I think you need a higher ceiling at that position. And if you went into this year and your running back rotation is Isaiah Pacheco, top 100 pick rookie Elijah Mitchell, I can live with that because I think this is the last year for Pacheco too. I do not think he will come back for a second contract with Kansas City. Somewhere he'll get another deal. I don't think it'll be in Kansas City. So that'd be a great way to usher in a rookie, whether that's one of the local guys. I think both Devin Neal and DJ Giddens would make a whole lot of sense.
I think they'd look really nice in that red and gold.
They would both be perfect fits, in fact. But whether it's one of those guys, somebody else, it's a great running back class. Draft someone. Mitchell's your 3. That's a great option 3. You can manage his workload quite a bit. It's fine. I'm not moved, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at with the Chiefs offseason so far. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. And fine is more than fine when the baseline is 15-2 and AFC champions. Matt Verderame, our NFL insider from Sports Illustrated, joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk by our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, who covers the league for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Subscribe to his subscriber-only Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and check him out on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network. He joins us every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Eventful Monday, Matt. We'll get to the league-wide stuff, the big headlines from the league, but let's start with the Chiefs. First, the players that are coming back. Nick Bolton, 3 years, $15 million a year, $30 million guaranteed. What do you make of that deal? Does that seem like about right in terms of the value of the player to the Chiefs and the value of Bolton relative to the top of the linebacker market?
Yeah, I mean, look, I kind of came into it thinking that he would get somewhere around Patrick Queen money, which is $3.42, and that was a year ago. And if you factor in inflation in the cap, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what he got. It's $3.45. I'm not surprised the Chiefs did it. Look, you could argue there was a better way to allocate some of this money. They need a corner. They may need some help on the D-line. We'll see what happens with Amenahu and with Wharton. Obviously, they need help at left tackle, although they at least they hope they took care of that today. They need another receiver, I would argue, although Hollywood Brown coming back lessens that need. But, look, in the end, I'm not surprised they kept Bolton. Spagnuolo loves Bolton, raves about him. He is a super IQ guy, a high IQ guy. He's a great player against the run. Obviously, limitations in coverage. But in the end, if you said to me 345, is it a fair deal? Yeah, I think it's a fair deal.
Let's talk about the new guys then, as Jalen Moore is a Chief, 2 years, $30 million, 21.24 guaranteed. Just 12 career starts in 4 years with the 49ers, but backing up one of the all-time greats in Trent Williams for those 4 seasons. What does this suggest that the plan is for the Chiefs? Do you think Moore is the guy? Do you think there's another veteran that they might bring in, maybe a DJ Humphries or a Donovan Smith on a 1-year deal to try and compete for the job? Is pick number 31 going to be a left tackle? How do you think that this maybe shows the roadmap forward for how the Chiefs want to handle left tackle for 2025 and beyond?
I think it's Jalen Moore's job this year, minimum. I mean, if not for 2 years, that it's not top tier left tackle money for obvious reasons, but it's starting money. I mean, you're giving a guy $15 million a year, he's playing. He's not sitting on the bench because you signed Donovan Smith. So, look, let's call it what it is. I mean, this is, what is their blueprint? The power of prayer, because they don't know if he can come in there and be a starter. They have no idea. They get projected all they want. He's played 12 games as a starter, ever. Their entire left side of the line, because Suamati is going to be the left guard, their entire left side of the line has 14 career starts in the NFL going into the season. I mean, that is Patrick Mahomes' blind side. And they have 14 career starts between them. You are putting a ton into the idea that these guys are going to develop, that Moore can translate over from that San Francisco system, which is far different than what Kansas City does. Look, he played well when he played last year. He started 5 games when Trent Williams got hurt. He played well. Is that indicative of who he's going to be for a 17-game season? If it is, I think the Chiefs are probably happy with their investment. He doesn't have to be Trent Williams. He's just got to be solid. He can't be a road cone. That's the question. They made the investment. And look, I think based on what we saw the Titans do with Dan Moore, it's the smart move. Like, Dan Moore getting $80 million is insane. I don't know. I mean, God bless him. I don't know how in the world anybody justified giving Dan Moore $80 million. So if you're the Chiefs, you probably got the best deal that there was out there today on the offensive line. I would even include guards and centers, but it is an unknown. There's no way around that.
Matt Verderame is our guest from Sports Illustrated and SI.com, also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and That Football Show at the KC Sports Network. He joins us every Monday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline to talk all things NFL with us here on 580 Sports Talk. One other Chiefs thought for you. They bring in running back Elijah Mitchell today. 1 year, $3.5 million. Has not played a lot in his NFL career. 27 games played over 4 seasons. Didn't play at all in 2024 due to a hamstring injury. Do we or should we have any expectations that he's anything more than RB3? Feels like low risk, medium reward to me. Is this anything more than a flyer, you think?
No, I think it's what it is. And then that's fine. Look, he's explosive. He's got speed. When he's played, he's been fantastic. The problem, as you mentioned, he never plays. He missed all of last year with a hamstring injury. Look, this is the kind of contract we could be sitting there in August going, yeah, he's not even going to make the team. Right? This could be the Irv Smith Jr. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about him, and he's just or it could be a deal where you go, hey, you know what? If he gets 7 touches, 8 touches a game, he kind of replaces Pirine. Okay, now Pirine didn't get that many touches, but okay, hey, that's fine. You got younger, you got more explosive, no big deal. I don't think this precludes them in any way, shape, or form from taking a running back in day 2 or something like that. I still think they very much need to do that. But look, he's a flyer. He's got a lot of talent. I don't blame the Chiefs. It's up to 3.5. My guess is that cap it's going to come in probably at $2 million or under. It's fine. I mean, if you're Brett Veach, there's really no downside to it. It's a worthy gamble to take because there's really nothing else.
Elsewhere around the NFL today, there were a few moves that I think we had kind of heard about a little bit or that felt like they were obvious moves. Drew Dahlman, the center from Atlanta to Chicago. If it's such an open secret that I have heard about it, Matt, that was obviously pretty obvious that was going to happen. But what is one move or maybe a couple moves that have happened today, been reported on today, that made you think, yeah, that's a perfect fit or yeah, that just makes plenty of sense?
There have been there's been crazy money thrown. Like, I'm probably one of the few national writers out there that I think the Milton Williams money is insane. I just think it's nuts. Like, if that pans out, I'm probably the only guy in the country gave it an F. I just think it's crazy. But I think there are some flip side signings that are really good, like Josh Sweat to the Cardinals. I think it's a really good signing. They desperately need an edge rusher. He played under Jonathan Gannon. Makes a lot of sense. I love Spillane going to New England. I just crushed New England for the Milton Williams signing. I really like the Spillane signing. He played under Vrabel. He's a very good player. He's underrated. Not great in coverage, but he's going to fit in that front seven really well. I like Poona Ford, going to the Rams. It's a good signing. He's a good football player. He's going to help them there. But, I think of all the moves, you talk about moves that maybe you expected. The move today that just floored me was the move that happened, a half hour ago? Laramie Tunsil getting traded out of Houston is, if I was CJ Stroud, I think I'd be picketing out front inside the stadium. Like, you can't block anybody. And you just traded Laramie Tunsil when everybody wants a left tackle because there's no left tackle to be had. And you just traded that guy. And I get it. Like, everybody's going, they got 3 picks. Yeah, but they're giving a pick back. Like, they got a second and a third round pick for Laramie Tunsil. Fine. But it's not just about value. Like, who's going on the field? It's going to be Titus Howard and Blake Fisher at tackle. Like, if I were CJ Stroud, not a great day.
A couple of big wide receiver moves that happened before today. Trade over the weekend, DK Metcalf heading from Seattle, which I'm sure Dan will ask about his Seahawks here in a moment. But they've sent DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh, who's really needed another receiver along with George Pickens, and Metcalf's better than George Pickens. Meanwhile, Devontae Adams, as we all expected, gets cut by the Jets. He signs with the Rams. He gets to go home to California. And suddenly that's a Rams team with 2 number 1 receivers between him and Puka Nacua. Which one of those two do you think will have a bigger impact on the team they're going to relative to where they were this past season?
Adams, because of the quarterback. They have a quarterback. Adams is going to be, in some ways, the number 2 receiver on that team.
It's crazy.
It's going to be very hard to double him. He's playing inside on turf. He's got Stafford and Sean McVay. I mean, DK Metcalf has Arthur Smith and me at quarterback. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe they're going to have Aaron Rodgers here at some point. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers to me at this point is fine, but he's not above average at this point in his career. Maybe slightly so. The Rams are going to be really good. The Rams, like, they still got some work to do in the secondary. That secondary is still a big question mark. That front seven, really good. The offensive line is good. The weapons are great. The coach is excellent. The quarterbacks, I mean, that team, that's a top 5-6 team in the NFL. That's a really good football team, especially if they can figure it out at corner. The Steelers, look, Metcalf makes them better. There's no question about that. But you wonder now, okay, you're paying Metcalf a ton. Are you paying Pickens? Is Pickens going to be out the door here at some point? Who's the quarterback? And it's just harder in the AFC. Like, you look at Pittsburgh, and I like, are they even a playoff team? Maybe. Like, it's a much harder needle to move because of the circumstances.
Couple more questions for Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, the Raiders and head coach Pete Carroll have their quarterback. It's Pete Carroll's old quarterback from Seattle, Geno Smith, acquired over the weekend in a trade with Seattle. How much does that raise the ceiling for what the Raiders can be in year one under Carroll?
It makes them better. I mean, there's no arguing that Geno Smith is certainly better than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Does it make them a playoff team? No. Like that's where, again, look at the confidence. And the Raiders, too, they have other, I mean, Spillane's gone. They lost Morgan today and traded to replace him with Jeremy Chin. Okay, fine. The Raiders have a long way to go. I mean, that is just not a good football team. That is a team that, right now is a pretty distant fourth in its own division. Maybe you think, hey, maybe Denver kind of comes back to the pack if you don't believe in Bo Nix. Maybe if you do, then they're really back in fourth place. They're better. They're better. Like, if they had their current quarterback situation, I would have said maybe they're a 5-win team. With Geno, maybe they win 7. I look at them and say, who's his number one target on the outside? Obviously, you have Brock Bowers. Great. I don't know who your number one receiver is. It's Jacoby Myers. The line's not good. The defense is not good outside of Max Crosby. Like, it's just, they're better, but they're still not any kind of a real threat to even make the playoffs, in my opinion.
All right, Matt, what the hell are the Seahawks doing?
I don't know. I have no problem with them just kind of hitting the reset button a little bit. All right, Geno's in his mid-30s, not winning Super Bowl, Geno Smith. Metcalf, don't want to pay him into his 30s. That's fine. I get it. Tyler Lockett, great all-time Seattle Seahawk, but time to go. 32 years old. Fell off this year. That's fine. But then to turn around and give Sam Darnold $100 million. I mean, look, the argument for it is he's a lot younger than Geno. He just had a better year than Geno Smith's ever had. You have Jackson Smith the Jigba. You've opened up some cap space. You really are looking at a 2-year deal with Darnold. I mean, that's essentially what is a third-year option. So if you want to argue it half full, glass half full, that's the argument. And you say, okay, brought back Jaron Reed, defense, with McDonald should still be, good defense. But it does kind of feel like spinning wheels here. Although they did pick up some picks, and that's going to be the thing. If Seattle can hit on these picks that they've gotten, then, hey, you could rebuild this thing quickly, and it's a young team, and McDonald's a young coach, and you've got a future for a long time. That's going to be the key here. Is just, you can't walk out of this turning those picks into just a couple of guys. You do that, and all of a sudden you're looking at a team that's kind of in the wilderness.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Check him out at That Football Show on the KC Sports Network. Check out his Patreon. Subscribe to his Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show. And, of course, catch him Mondays here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. Hope your phone stops buzzing for like 5 minutes. You can put your feet up for a second, catch your breath on this first day of NFL free agency, and we'll talk to you next week.
That would be great. Thank you, guys. Take care.
That is Matt Verderame. We will step aside for a timeout, come back, and wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Good, bad, ugly from the sports weekend that was. Brendan, give me your good.
My good, I was honored to be in attendance at Washburn's watch party yesterday for the Division II NCAA tournament selection show. Really cool. Fired up for the guys, man. It was all business in that room in the Cap-Fed donor suites over at Lee Arena. They knew they were the number one seed. It was announced a little before the selection show, but it was all business when that Washburn name popped up on the screen. Really, really cool for Coach Ballard and crew, though.
My good, 13 area teams making it to the state basketball tournaments. 8 of the 10 city high school, or county rather, high schools had at least one team make it to state. A couple of schools had multiple teams like Washburn Rural. So Silver Lake, first time ever boys and girls have gone in the same year. So very excited to get to follow their progress at the state tournaments starting on Wednesday. Your bad.
My bad. Dusty May, who I like a lot, really acting like a clown this weekend. Michigan State versus Michigan. State has a tradition where the seniors kiss the floor when they walk off it for the last time on senior day. Michigan had a couple players stand on the logo to try to keep Michigan State from doing it. Then Dusty May act like he didn't know what was happening in the postgame. Just be a man and own up to it, man. Come on.
My bad. K-State shooting in their loss to Iowa State on senior day on Saturday. You always hate to see a team lose their senior day. Got an ugly?
Yeah, New Era released maybe the worst baseball team hats of all time this weekend. Go to whatever social media you're on, look for them. They are more hideous than you can imagine.
My ugly is $55 million guaranteed for Sam Darnold, who sucks. We will talk more about that in the next hour. Lots of NFL to get to. And we'll talk some college hoops as KU wins on senior day for a 42nd consecutive time. Plus, we got What Is Wrong With You coming your way as well. That's all coming up on the second hour of this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on a Monday. So glad you're spending some of this beautiful afternoon in the capital city with us on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, worldwide, 580WIBW.com. And a big shout to our viewers on the video stream, checking us out on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News. Gang's all here. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis. We are with you until 5:45 this evening. We're breaking away 15 minutes early for pregame coverage of Westwood One's coverage of the Southern Conference Championship game tonight between Furman and Wofford.
Good old SoCo.
We've got some basketball that we brought you the last couple of nights. Maybe you caught the... what league is that? The one SEMO's in.
The OVC.
Yeah, the OVC.
Ohio Valley.
Yeah, we had the OVC title game Saturday night.
Shout out to the Cougars of SIU Edwardsville.
First time ever.
The first 3 teams to clinch tournament berths this year, all first-timers.
Yeah.
SIU Edwardsville,
High Point,
and Omaha.
Yeah,
Omaha.
So
former MIAA member.
Yeah, that's right.
Only because they got in by a technicality because St. Thomas
they
can't
also
make it to the tournament.
they also beat St. Thomas
well, yes,
in the title game.
They
They
clinched that early. For
yeah,
that
they earned it.
a good team.
SIUE heavy Kansas presence on that roster.
Yeah,
had a couple kids from the national champions from Barton Community College.
Yeah, Miles Thompson.
Miles Thompson out of Hutch, and Ring Malith also from that Barton Community College team. So yeah, congrats to SIUE.
That's awesome.
So good stuff there. We got the SoCon title game coming your way tonight. A little treat, get you fired up for the NCAA tournament. Of course, we'll have coverage starting with the first 4 games, the doubleheaders next Tuesday and Wednesday, first and second round coverage all through next week, and onward from there on the road to the Final Four on 580 WIBW.
How was Sub-State this weekend?
Sub-state was, so I had the Friday night, had the Seaman girls against Cape and Mount Carmel. Really good ball game. Seaman just kept Cape at arm's length the entire night, won it by 8, 55-47. Lady Vikes going back to state, trying to defend their title.
Machine.
Yes. Keisha decided to put the championship game in round 1. I know somebody's going to hear me say that and say, oh, really? But yes, the 5A girls championship game was in round 1 between Seaman and Piper. Seaman beat Piper twice this year by a combined 3 points. And one of those games was won at the buzzer. I firmly believe those are the 2 best teams in the 5A bracket. Like, firmly. Like, you can't talk me off of that opinion. So that's round 1. So there's going to be a team that I think could win any state title. I don't just think Seaman and Piper are top, like, the 2 best teams in 5A. I think they might be like 2 of the best 5 teams in the entire state of Kansas.
I believe
in girls basketball.
I definitely believe
and one of them is going home Wednesday before Thursday morning. That is wild.
We've got a lot of NFL to get to, and I don't want to keep us too long, but I do want to shout out something you said. You brought up a quote from Gus Johnson this week. I think it was on your Blue Sky account about like the joy in sports and seeing young people succeed. And I know I'm paraphrasing and butchering it here. I thought that was really cool. I think that was a really cool thing of you to say with a picture of the Highland Park boys. That is why this is the best time of year for high school basketball. And,
yes.
I'm excited
100%.
to be part of the coverage for state this year. I know you guys are too. I miss being out at those state sites and seeing, like, you know, it's so sad for some teams, but to see these teenage kids who have worked so hard all year to accomplish these goals and to see just the pure joy, it's incredible. There's nothing like it.
And they always do it big out of Highland Park too when they clinch state.
Awesome.
They bring out the ladder. They let the kids cut down the nets. And that was especially meaningful with 10 seniors on this year's roster, finishing up a 22-0 run to the state tournament. Obviously, there's that one big hump they want to get over because they've been the 3rd place team in 5A each of the last 2 years. They want to get to that championship game on Saturday and bring home the school's 7th state title. But
they got to do it at home this year.
Win the sub-state, you mean?
Yeah. Something they didn't do last. Last year.
Yeah, well, yes, something that they could not do last year because the gym had been flooded out. Yeah. So yeah, they did. They got to be back at the back at their home gym, back at the pressure cooker. That was a lot of fun to get to see that because they played a team that was red hot coming in. Base for Linwood had beaten 3 top 10 teams their last 3 games. They were smoking hot coming in and never really in the game. And Highland Park can D up, folks. They can really, really D up. I mean, you think about them like the running Scots, and they're going to score 70, and that's how they're going to beat you. They might just suffocate you with defense this year. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got great coverage coming your way on the 580 Press Road to a Championship. Still finalizing some details. By the time we hit air tomorrow, we'll know exactly what games we're going to have on the air for both Wednesday and Thursday. And then again, that will be contingent upon whether or not Kansas State is also playing at the same time. K-State coverage in the Big 12 tournament will take precedence, but we'll bring you as much state basketball as we can here this week on the 580 Preps Road to a Championship. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up later this hour. We're going to talk some college basketball. KU victorious on their senior day over Arizona. We'll talk about the decision that Hunter Dickinson maybe has made here in his waning days as a college basketball player. But as you mentioned, we're going to talk NFL because there's a whole lot happening. There is so much happening. It is just a veritable buffet, an orgy, if you will, of NFL news and notes.
I
to
won't.
Get to.
No, I will not.
You don't have to. That's fine. Anyhow, I guess we can start with it's hard to know where to start. But we can start with what happened over the weekend. We can start with some of the players that are staying home, staying with their respective teams. Obviously, we talked about Nick Bolton staying with the Chiefs and Hollywood Brown returning to Kansas City. Myles Garrett, $40 million a year to stay in Cleveland. Remember it wasn't a notes app. It wasn't even a Photoshop. It was just like a very boilerplate. It looked like a wedding invitation that he put out on social media. I always want to win a Super Bowl. That was my goal, not to make the Hall of Fame. I want to win a Super Bowl. With that being said, I requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. Well, apparently the Browns were able to pony up the money, and Myles Garrett's lack of Super Bowl rings, that has a price, and that price is $40 million a year.
Isn't it? Did I see this wrong? Was this just somebody trolling? Is he getting a certain amount of money for every win they get as a bonus? Or was that somebody trolling?
I think that might have been trolling. It would be very funny if that was included. I'll tell you this much. Yeah, winning a real Super Bowl would be fun, but you can buy a lot of copies of Madden to win a fake Super Bowl on with that much money.
$40 million a year.
Money talks, man.
$123.5 million in guaranteed money. It makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Congratulations, Matt Crosby. You got to be that for like 2 days. And now Myles Garrett is back in Cleveland, a team that still doesn't have a quarterback.
And it's going to suck because they don't have money for anything else either.
Yeah,
Your whole offensive line is hurt and leaving. I mean, it's.
So that was the asking price. Also this weekend, Davante Adams found a new home. 2 years, $46 million with the Los Angeles Rams. Brendan, I know this hurt you. You wanted to see him reunite in Green Bay.
I did, but then I found out, according to Jason Wilde, who covers the Packers for WISC TV in Wisconsin, they did not even call him. So apparently that was nothing more. I had been told, I'm not the most well-sourced individual out there when it comes, even as an owner.
Even as an owner.
So, some things, they like to keep under wraps. But even my source said, hey, there's some mutual interest here. Apparently not enough to pick up the phone. So he wanted to go to California. He got a big old payday. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers. And their depth behind the 2 of them is bad. Like, their number 3 receiver is Tutu Atwell, who I think would be tackled by a stiff breeze. And Jordan Whittington has Adam Duritz hair, and that's like his only trait. But Matthew Stafford throwing to Puka and Davante Adams is going to be awesome. And I don't even like Matt Stafford.
Matthew Verderame very high on the Rams. He believes they're a top 6 team in the NFL right now.
I had that thought earlier today. I thought, I might pick the Rams to win the NFC, man. Like, I like their defense a lot.
Yeah, they got young on defense and made real big strides last year. Jared Verse, rookie of the year on defense.
Fisk's a nice player. Turner's a nice player. They need cornerback help, but McVay's great. That's a good team. It's a good fit for Davante. I'm happy for him.
So that's
also happy he got paid for his own sake.
Also over the weekend, 2 big trades out of Seattle. Geno Smith heads to the Raiders for a 3rd-round pick. DK Metcalf to the Steelers for a 2nd-round pick. We'll address Geno Smith first. I always thought he was pretty good. The metrics tell you that he's pretty good. The Seahawks didn't think he was that guy. The Seahawks did not believe he was a franchise quarterback. At the end of the day, they were never willing to pay him franchise quarterback money. And it looks like the Raiders are a little more willing to give Geno Smith something in the neighborhood of $40 million a year. I do think what the Raiders have done this offseason so far, and it tracks when you hire a 70-something as your head coach, they have raised their floor. They've already raised their floor to a level where they're not going to be a tire fire. But how realistic is it with the rest of their roster they can get it to contention unless they absolutely crush this upcoming NFL draft? I don't think there's a realistic path that sees them getting to the point where, okay, this is a roster that's a 500 roster, and then with a little variation against the last place schedule, maybe they can make it shake, win 10 games, sneak in as a 7 seed.
Yeah, I see it.
I just don't think they can get there. I think losing Robert Spillane is a big deal.
Good player. I like Spillane.
Where did he end up with?
New England.
Yeah.
Which I think it's a good deal for New England. I think Spillane's a nice player. Yeah, I give the Raiders credit. Well, I shouldn't give you. It's a little different in football. It's not like baseball. We're like, wow, I give you credit for spending on one free agent. No, that's not how it should be. The Raiders clearly are facing one of the biggest uphill climbs in the NFL because the Chiefs are in their division. The Chargers are clearly better and are well coached and better run. The Broncos are better coached and more well run than they have been in recent years. They are all primed to continue making playoff pushes. The Raiders have such a big hole to dig out of. It's going to be hard to make the playoffs as the 4th team in your division. But that being said, you could pack it in and you could just do dumb stuff constantly. But the Raiders have, and the other thing too, Mark Davis, who we've talked about, loves the Raiders, loves football, but doesn't know football.
Right.
He has straight up said, and the conflict of interest is obviously bad. But he has stepped aside and said, all right, Tom Brady, go do it.
Yeah.
You're in charge of football. I'll give you the money you need. Go make football happen. And they improved their head coach. They improved their quarterback. They kept their best overall player in Max Crosby. We just saw a few minutes ago, Malcolm Kuntz, their other edge rusher, he's back on a 1-year deal. I like Kuntz. I was hoping he was going to be a Packer today. Like, their defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, awesome. Really, really good coach. I can't believe they kept him with a new regime. They're doing the right things. The problem is, so is everybody else in the division to a better degree.
Yes.
And the top team in the division has the best coach and quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's a long way to the top. And
but hey, if I'm a fan of the Raiders, you know what? At least we're gonna be watchable. Like,
yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, you won't be clown shoes. Like
No.
you feel a lot more like a real team than you did like a month, 2 months ago.
They'll be fun. I think they'll be a fun team.
They've got that going for them. And if they were in the AFC South or maybe even the AFC East, you could talk yourself into
win the South.
Yeah, you could really talk yourself into a big leap forward in the standings.
Yep.
They're a long way from getting to even like the Chargers and the Broncos in terms of their overall rosters. The other move, what we mentioned, DK Metcalf to the Steelers for a second-round pick. Again, Metcalf, we talked about him on Friday. He's not a top of the pops wide receiver one, but he is like good enough to be your best wide receiver.
Yes. And
he joins George Pickens, which is a hilarious partnering.
Yes.
I saw somebody on Blue Sky say that the two of them meeting is like when John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell's characters meet in Step Brothers for the first time, and they just kind of stare at each other across the lawn.
You were spot on with what you said. I believe it was you who said this, Dan. It's insane George Pickens and sane George Pickens.
Yes.
It's
DK Metcalf is sane George Pickens, and George Pickens is insane DK Metcalf.
Now, I do think what does help Pittsburgh here, you can focus attention on as a defense, you can't focus all your attention on stopping George Pickens anymore because now there's another receiver who can go catch the ball who I think is better than George Pickens. This should make him even more effective. He can't do like a lot. He's going to run slants and he's going to run go balls, and that's kind of his whole thing. But he's going to get single coverage more often because DK is going to draw more attention, and you're going to. If they had someone who could get them the ball, I think it could be a pretty fun offense. To bring a Jalen Warren back at running back, I think their offensive line should be top half of the league again. I mean, this could be a better team.
The rumor is Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much stock to put into that or how much right now it's just Aaron Rodgers' agent putting out there that Aaron Rodgers would like to play for anybody. Please call my client Aaron Rodgers. He won a Super Bowl once. Please call my client.
It was a great Super Bowl.
And I do think that he is kind of being used as leverage. I certainly think he was used as leverage in Seattle a little bit. We'll get to what they've decided to do at quarterback after the Geno Smith trade a bit. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the fit. I think you need a guy who is really comfortable throwing the ball deep over the top to wide receivers who got go-get-it ability.
Russ.
Just need to bring back Russell Wilson.
No, I think so. Honestly,
they're not going to do a whole lot better. They honestly aren't, because as much as Wilson fell off in the second half of last year, I still think he's got more left in the tank than a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
I don't even know if it's as much left in the tank as much as it is with both of them, you get what you get. You know what Russell Wilson is. You know what Aaron Rodgers is at this point. You are not getting anything more than the exact thing we saw from each of the two of them last year. And Russ probably fits better with that. I don't know if Rodgers would make sense with Arthur Smith, to be honest with you. Like, I don't. I think, that's a massive personality clash. Those are two egos the size of planets. And Russ has an ego too, but I think he's kind of chilled out a little bit because I think he's kind of aware of what his situation is now. I don't think they can go wrong necessarily because I don't really think either of those two decisions are right. But
right.
Like, that's a playoff team, though. Defense will be decent. Receivers are better.
Go around the horn here and give me a move. We'll start with you, Brendan. We'll go Brendan, Spencer, and then me. Give me a move you really liked from today's first day of free agency.
Ooh, a move I really liked. Oh, gosh. I got to pull up a list of them here because there were so damn many of them.
There have been a lot.
I really did love Devontae Adams to the Rams. They had the money to get him. They have a second legit wide receiver now. And he's a star. That's going to be such a good move. I'll give you one we haven't talked to yet. It's not a free agent signing. The Buffalo Bills rewrote Josh Allen's contract this week.
Yeah.
6 years, $330 million, $250 million guaranteed.
It's the Joe Burrow deal, exact average annual value plus a year.
And it also breaks the record for most guaranteed money on a single contract, which was previously held by Deshaun Watson. Congrats, Browns! Not at the top anymore. And you might say, that's so much money. He's great, and it's earned, but wow, that's a lot of money. I will give you a counterpoint. That's the same average annual value as Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Who would rather have it $55 million a year, Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence?
The fact that they could do an Allen deal without resetting the market, that tells you that Allen was probably willing to forfeit a little bit of that money to make sure that the Bills could continue to put a winning team around it.
And I read as well that, and I haven't seen the structure yet, but I read that you should expect this is going to have Mahomes. Like, what was the phrase the Chiefs used? guarantee mechanisms. You remember when Mahomes got his big deal? I would expect there's going to be a lot of weirdness and quirks in the Allen contract so they can move it around. And Allen agrees to that because, okay, you're going to pay me more upfront right away every time you do that, so I'll take it. And he loves Buffalo. The children's hospital, or the children's wing of the hospital in Buffalo, is named for his grandma because he gave a huge donation after she passed away. He loves Buffalo. It's a perfect fit. I love that for the Bills. Okay, you never need to worry about it again. As long as he is around, you never need to worry about it. You'll always be contending. And again, you're paying Trevor Lawrence money to a quarterback way above Trevor Lawrence in terms of the NFL hierarchy.
It's still Dak Prescott at $60 million, highest average annual value for a quarterback.
Who would I rather have, the MVP or a guy who's really good for the first 14 weeks of the year?
Spencer Dupuis, favorite move from today or the weekend so far?
The Dallas Cowboys re-signing their long snapper. Just kidding. No, that's about the only move they've made today. No, I really love the Commanders trade for Laramie Tunsil. Not as a homer. There's nobody on the market, and the Texans were selling.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And they traded a few picks, yes, but they're trying to maximize Jaden Daniels' window with his rookie contract, and it's they can get out after this year.
Yeah,
it's 10 years or $10 million guaranteed this year. So I like it, and it sets up the Commanders to move their former left tackle that they drafted this year, Brendan Coleman, into left guard, and then you have Wiley on the outside, the other side. Nick Allegretti's going to sit in at right guard until Sam Cosmi gets back, and you have Biadasz at center.
No, I mean, it's a huge improvement for what? Yeah, that's a no doubt.
If I were Brett Veach, I would have broken my cell phone if I saw that Laramie Tunsil.
Right.
I
don't care what the picks are.
Yeah,
right?
I'd have reached out to who's the GM in Washington again?
Adam Peterson.
I would have reached out to Adam Peterson. Come on, man, you could have called me.
No, the Houston GM.
Oh, the Houston GM.
Well, there's the thing. Houston probably wouldn't have traded him within the AFC because they think they can win while they have Stroud, especially for cheap.
Well,
but yeah, if you're
maybe not for a second and a third, but okay, I would have done a first and a third for Tunsil. Your window is now
first and a third for Tunsil and a fifth or something.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If I were Veach, I would have done that. No problem.
Question. That's a great move for them.
I really liked today. Denver Broncos and Talanoa Hufanga are in agreement on a 3-year deal. $20 million guaranteed, $45 million. Hufanga's only played 17 games the last 2 years, but the last time he played a full season, he was a first-team All-Pro. He's had ACL injury in 2023. It was a wrist injury last year. There have been some concussions too. But I think this is an upside play, very much worth it for a Broncos team that has not gotten very good play at the second and third levels of their defense the last couple of years. Defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, notwithstanding at cornerback. Their safety play really dipped last season. Naturally, they moved on from their veteran guys, and the guys they added weren't very good. I think Hufanga's ceiling is as good of safety play as the Broncos have had. And I really like that move for them. I still think Hufanga is a really good player. Maybe he's not. Maybe he never returns to that 2022 form. But I'd say $20 million guaranteed is worth it to find out. Give me a move you hated today / this weekend, Brendan.
Yeah, so there were a couple I really did not understand. Two stand out. Number one, sorry, Spencer, to take a shot at your Commanders. You've had a very good day.
Javon Kinlaw?
$15 million for Javon Kinlaw. And that's a guy I liked out of South Carolina in the draft. Total bust. I'm pretty sure motor was the big concern when he got to the NFL. I don't need to try anymore. He's bad. And they gave him he is getting paid more than Cam Hayward.
That's wild.
That's yikes. Here's the other one. The Jets gave Justin Fields $30 million.
They sure did.
I don't care that he's throwing to Garrett Wilson, his buddy from Ohio State. I don't care that Aaron Glenn is an elite motivator and is going to maximize him out as best as he can. I do not care. Justin Fields is a bad NFL player. Guys, he was drafted in 2021. We're going into the 25 season now. We've seen him. We know what he is, and he is bad. He can't throw the ball.
The
$30 million guaranteed for a guy who's bad. This isn't even and I know you'll get to Sam Darnold in a minute, hey, you've seen the flashes, at least you can talk yourself into it. You can't with Fields. He's a fantasy football weapon because he runs a bunch. That's it.
I'm reminded of Gertrude Stein's famous line, there's no there. Like that's how I feel about Justin Fields. Like I know that there's the size and I know he's got some athleticism, but as a quarterback, there is no there. We have seen what he is, and I don't think that there's anything more. Certainly not that the Jets are going to be able to coax out of him.
I think this is the first Gertrude Stein reference in show history.
You might be right.
The other thing too, like the idea that, oh man, we could have this quarterback who's got elite speed and he's a great runner and he can move, but he can also scramble and throw the ball. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, you mean the 2-time MVP in Baltimore? That player exists. Lamar Jackson is actually good. You don't need to imagine it. It exists. I do not get the fascination with Justin Fields. He stinks.
Brendan, Spencer, give me a movie you hated.
Yeah. Since Brendan jabbed my team, I'm going to jab his team. Aaron Banks, 49ers guard to Green Bay on a 4-year, $77 million deal, aka almost essentially a Robert Hunt deal.
That's $23 million less than Robert Hunt got.
Yes, but it was a 5-year deal.
Okay, fair enough. So it's $3
million. He signed a 5-year
total.
deal.
Yeah, essentially $3 million less. Yeah. So the Packers do not improve at guard by signing Banks, which you'd say, what? Why would you do that then? The difference is we're going to kick Elton Jenkins into center instead of Josh Myers, which is like going from a popsicle to a hot fudge brownie sundae. Like, oh yeah, this is like, okay, if it's like 100 degrees and I like really need to wet my whistle versus like, wow, this is the best dessert I've ever had.
Okay.
You're
that high on Jenkins at center.
I'm very high on Elton Jenkins. Like, Spencer, you're right. Like, Aaron Banks is fine. Like, in a vacuum, he's whatever. It's more so that we can move pieces around now. That's the justification.
Eyebrow-raising amount of money for a player who's been banged up and doesn't feel like, a lot of money for a guard.
I'd rather 3 for 60 than 4 for almost 80.
Move I didn't like is the Seattle Seahawks gave Sam Darnold $55 million guaranteed because here are the problems with Sam Darnold. Number one, he stinks. He stinks real bad. I don't care that he succeeded in a Kevin O'Connell offense. Clearly, anybody can do that because Kirk Cousins got a big bag, and now Sam Darnold has gotten a big bag. Maybe it's just Kevin O'Connell. Maybe he's just that kind of good. Number two, we saw what Sam Darnold looked like in the 2 games that mattered this last year for the Vikings. He wet his pants. He made a big old mess. He made a boom boom in his pants. Like my 9-month-old son. Just a big, runny, exploding diaper performance in the 2 games that mattered for Sam Darnold. Number 3, he's not better than Geno Smith. Flat out.
He's not.
If you want to be good, a good team, you keep your better quarterback. Even if
I don't get the process. Unless, like, it's like a weird half tank. Like, you cut Lockett, which we understand, but then you also got rid of your other best receiver. Well, JSN's really good, but you're another really good receiver in DK Metcalf. You move on from Geno, who I know is old, but like you're not better.
You give this guy $55 million guaranteed, and you put him behind an offensive line that, no exaggeration, was one of the worst in the sport last year. And I didn't see them giving out any big money to a guard or a tackle or a center today. They're going to go ahead and trust the guys they have on hand. They're going to get Sam Darnold killed. This is the I'm seeing ghost guy, and you're putting him behind an offensive line that's been 5 turnstiles for the last decade.
I just can't believe the Vikings didn't re-sign him.
See,
because they saw his movies. They knew exactly what he was. And that would have been the biggest red flag of all for me, is you look at a guy who got your team 13 wins and the postseason, and you said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
That's not where I was going.
You signed up for that?
I was going with to be there for JJ, give him 1 year, and if he didn't do anything this year, then clearly he's not proven.
No, they drafted J.J. McCarthy to be the guy. Like last year was a happy accident with Darnold, and they know they saw enough of his movies to know. And the Seahawks decided, yes, we sign us up for $55 million guaranteed. This is like when the Broncos signed Case Keenum, and we're like, yeah, we're going to be
after he was with Minnesota.
Yes, like we're not tanking. We don't tank. We're going to try and be competitive. You're going to be the same mid you've been for the last half decade. And that's boring to me. Don't give me an A or give me an F. And I'm tired of C+ football from the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
Should we have a quarterback
Sam Darnold guarantees you C+ football for 3 more years.
By the way, Sam Darnold got more guaranteed money than Baker Mayfield.
Did you see we have a breaking quarterback trade?
No.
Quarterback trade?
The Eagles are trading Kenny Pickett to the Browns for a 5th rounder and Dorian Thompson.
Boy, yeah, that was worth
Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Well,
he's probably going to be the starter. There's no way they're keeping what's this dirty man?
The one thing I did want to bring up real quick about Darnold, you're in an offense run by Clint Kubiak now. this offense is going to require that your quarterback make plays. Last year in New Orleans, it looked amazing for 2 weeks. And then suddenly Derek Carr sucked. And when Derek Carr sucked major buns, it was a disaster.
And you know why that happened? Because the offensive line fell apart at the seams.
And
you need a good offensive line. And John Schneider thinks that you can just find 3 nightclub bouncers and play them at left guard, center, and right guard.
There are some offenses, like I think Sam Darnold made a lot of sense in Vegas because Chip Kelly's whole thing is you are going to take the snap, you are going to throw to this spot in 1.5 seconds, and that is your job. You are not doing anything else, and that's how we will win. That's why they went to that's why Marcus Mariota was so good, because he did more than that. I thought that would have made a lot of sense for Sam Darnold. Going to a place where Clint Kubiak's going to say, hey, I like my scheme, the Shanahan-esque thing, but my QB is going to have to do X, Y, and Z to make it click. That's not what's going to work here. And that's why I don't understand the process of this. I'm sorry.
I hate it. I hate it a lot. Let's do What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have What Is Wrong With You. Yeah, that might be. You beat me to the joke. What is wrong with you next on 580 Sports Talk? What is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk? It's a brand new week, and it's sponsored by our guy, Mo, State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Check out his website at ryanmowinkle.com. That's MOHWINKLE. See what Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. I bet he'd have great advice for Sam Darnold and his $55 million guaranteed the Seahawks just gave him. That is ineligible for what is wrong with you, by the way. It would be the yearly champion. 2 news stories competing this
that
week.
Worse than signing Justin Fields for $40 million, 30 guaranteed?
No, probably not. Just more bothersome to me personally.
That's fair.
We go overseas where an EasyJet flight was forced to make an emergency landing in Portugal after a brawl between families over the Karate Kid erupted in midair. A flight from the Cayman Islands to London Gatwick descended into chaos last year when a woman confronted a 5-year-old boy for watching the 2010 remake of the classic film The Karate Kid on his iPad. The mother of the 5-year-old claims that her son was watching with the volume set low, but an irritated woman sitting 4 rows in front of the family allegedly shouted racial abuse at the boy to turn off the film. When challenged for the abuse towards her son, the mother alleges that the woman's partner grabbed her other half, who is disabled, by the neck. Following the physical altercation, the pilot diverted for an emergency landing in Porto, Portugal. Local police met the aircraft on landing with both families removed from the London-bound flight for their behavior. The mother, a lettings officer, is now threatening to sue EasyJet over the incident that left her family scared and distressed.
So I'm going to tell you a little something about budget airlines in Europe, because I don't believe either of you have been to Europe. If I'm not
That's
mistaken.
correct.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little something about them. You can say whatever you want about how terrible they are in this country. They are so much worse in Europe. I remember flying Ryanair. I would fly on Spirit 80 more times before I'd even think about paying for a Ryanair flight again. And EasyJet in the same kind of company. They are awful. It already sucks to be on one of these flights. And like, if a kid is watching with the volume on or whatever, it's just that's like the least of your problems on one of these flights. There's like chickens running up and down the aisle. You've got some sort of like weird bearded lady sitting next to you. Some guy like spitting on you or drooling on you while he sleeps. Like, this is the least of your worries on one of these flights.
So on the one hand, obviously huge overreaction, and certainly didn't need to make it personal or racial with your comments. Also, though, like, get some headphones for the iPad, man. Just get some headphones. Get some headphones. Don't bother anybody. Vance in the YouTube comments says, wax on, shut up. That's pretty really good. Paul in the YouTube comments, EasyJet, hard knocks. Solid. Good job.
Such a good job with these.
Good job, commenters. Brendan, you have a story today.
All right. Our second What Is Wrong With You story brought to you by our State Farm agent, Ryan Mowinkle. We are going to Orlando, Florida, where a woman is accused of attacking a man with a Pringles can.
As one does.
The Orange County Sheriff's Office was called to a 7-Eleven on International Drive for a reported fight. A man told deputies that Shanika Serdal hit him in the eye with a Pringles can and then ran off. The responding deputy reported that the victim had a significant cut on his right eyebrow and below his eye, causing him to bleed. Deputies later found Serdal with the Pringles can still in her possession. She was arrested and charged with aggravated battery. Lady, dump the Pringles. You do not need to keep the weapon with you.
So do you swing it like a little sword, or do you like hit, like come down with like the bottom of it like a club?
I think it's kind of a half tomahawk. Like, I think it's kind of like a pitching motion almost. What?
Because the thing about it is you have to do it while you're holding it. You put your hand all the way in the Pringles thing, you might not get it out.
You might not get it out, yeah. Yeah, she really slammed a stack of that guy.
Once you pop.
Pringles are so good, man.
I do love Pringles.
Are you an original flavor guy?
Yeah, I do. I will say the barbecue flavor sometimes hit the spot. Yeah. The cheddar flavor can sometimes hit the spot. And I used to really love the pizza flavored ones.
Oh yeah.
When I was younger. Paul, once again in the YouTube comments, a new flavor of Pringles, salt and vinegar.
God dang.
Jeffrey with a callback to a 2-year-old What Is Wrong With You story, asking if there was any poop in the Pringles can. That guy is a lawyer. I think he was a lawyer, pooped in the Pringles can, and
didn't he throw it at a women's shelter? Or
it was something like the advocacy for women who had been abused. Yeah. They just left it in their parking lot.
Oh my God!
Poop-filled Pringles cans. Oh, God. Great callback. Great callback.
I am tempted to go with the Pringles, the Pringles pummeling.
I like the stories that don't involve racism.
Yeah. Just
I kind of lean that way usually.
Doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to this story either. Just walked up and wanga with the Pringles can.
Yeah.
What did the Pringles say? The face
Slap.
pop. That's going to be our winner on What Is Wrong
Get
with
a
You.
can for the studio. Crunch on them.
Just for, yeah, and we can use this visual aid
Yeah.
on tomorrow's show as it is moving on.
This
What
is what would
wrong with
happen
you?
if I were to hit Dan with a Pringles can. Here's how I would swing it.
What is wrong with you? Sponsored by our buddy Mo, State Farm agent Ryan, Mo Winkle, and Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, KU's senior day winning streak survives. Barely, but it survives. And KU may have found the recipe for March success. We'll talk about the Jayhawks next here on 580 Sports Talk. .447 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer with you for another hour. We're leaving early, 5:45 today, making way for some SoCon basketball. Westwood 1 coverage of the road to the Final Four. KU victorious on Saturday in their senior day showdown with Arizona, 83-76, the final score. KU led by as many as 14 in the first half. Arizona reeled them back in, and KU was able to hold them off, execute down the stretch, and win the ball game. Huge night for Hunter Dickinson, 33 points, matching a career high that he set back when he played at Michigan. CJ Moore wrote a piece at The Athletic. Our guy CJ had a piece explaining that essentially Bill Self has told Hunter Dickinson, big fella, we are jumping on your back. It has to be the Hunter Dickinson show. He has to be the best player on the floor, game in and game out, and he has to score at that level. Maybe not 33 a night, but he's got to get into the mid-20s. He's got to take his game up another level and be great every single night if KU's going to do anything moving forward. And he's risen to the occasion. And that was something I was a little critical of Dickinson earlier this year, that it felt like in some of the bigger games he would get a little yippy around the basket and kind of fail to meet that moment, that he put up cosmetically nice looking numbers, but never the guy that could just take over a stretch of game the way he did on Saturday. So that's obviously the big step forward. And between that and KJ Adams playing well, which he has really played well down the stretch, and Zeke Mayo finding his 3-point stroke, and DeJuan Harris playing with a little bit more verve and confidence than we've seen from him really for the better part of Big 12 play, that felt the closest to the KU team that we thought we were going to see back in November that we've seen this year, at least to me.
No, I think that's certainly true. You know, Bill Self had a quote about KJ Adams specifically and said, I think KJ has kind of realized that the end is near for his basketball career, and that has kind of changed the way that he has approached things, and he's playing with a renewed energy and all of that. And well, so far it's worked out. He's been playing better as of late, and I'm sure Hunter Dickinson's feeling the same way too, right? Like, Hunter's going to play professionally somewhere, probably never in the NBA, but he'll go play overseas somewhere and probably have a good career. I bet you he'd be a star in China. He'd put up like 20 and 20 in China. It'd be crazy. But kind of the realization that, look, this is it. This is our moment to do something. This is what we will be remembered for. And that kind of thing is powerful. And Bill Self's a great motivator. Obviously, that's the case. So I'm proud of the guys. I'm happy for them. There was a really cool moment late in the game, or right as the game ended, where Hunter, DeJuan, and KJ all shared a hug together.
It was like, what, 2 or 3 seconds left, right?
Yeah, it was right as the game was ending, and it was wrapped up by that point, which I thought was really cool. I really like that. People can say what they want about Hunter Dickinson as a guy, as a an instigator. He has never been anything but a good teammate at KU. He has always been there for his guys and with his guys, and I think that matters as much as anything. I know some people hate him, whatever. He's been a great teammate since coming to KU.
He's always been the guy willing to kind of wear that black hat for the other fan bases in the Big 12 and whoever else Kansas is going to play. But yeah, you make a good point. Like, as a teammate, as like a guy in the locker room, he's not fallen short of any expectations there.
No, there was another moment late in the game. I believe it put KU up by 7. And you alluded to this particular play earlier, Dan. I did too. KJ Adams tips out an offensive rebound to DeJuan Harris, who then lobs it back to the basket. KJ Adams goes up, flushes it home, and that was the dagger. That ended the game effectively. That restored a feeling in me that I have not felt since probably December, maybe November. Like, the first half against North Carolina, the win over Duke. Like, oh boy, that felt like it could be. And KU goes and gets bounced on Wednesday and then loses in the second round. No one's going to remember it. But that felt in the moment like, oh man, that is an emotional play. 2 guys who have been much maligned this season, coming up with a highlight to close out senior day. That feels like it could be a flashpoint kind of moment. And that was really, really cool.
Confident DeJuan makes a lot of difference. And
that was his best game in a month and a half.
Yeah. And I don't know where that version of DeJuan Harris has been, because we've seen that version for the better part of his Kansas career. And when DeJuan plays at a high level, Kansas can beat just about anybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the point Bill Self made. I think it was after the game on Saturday, where he says, we've been like 75% of our best too often this year, or 70% of our best too often this year. We don't have that margin for error where we can be 75% of us and win. We got to be 90% to win, to beat anybody. But if we are 90%, we can beat anybody. And part of being 90% is DeJuan Harris looking like that. That was a big development. If he's that guy moving forward, picture looks a little bit rosier for the Kansas Jayhawks. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Two hours just about in the books here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got 45 minutes remaining. We're off a little early today at 5:45 for Westwood One coverage of the SoCon championship game between Wofford and Furman. Coming on the 5 o'clock hour, we'll talk a little Royals baseball. Not a great day at the Yard in surprise today for the boys in blue. They are losing to the Guardians 5-0 in the eighth. Chris Bubich gave up a couple of runs in his 3 innings. Every pitcher who has pitched for the Royals, in fact, has given up a run. Royals have just 5 hits, though Jonathan India and Bobby Witt Jr. each have 1. Freddie Fermin's got a double as well. But we'll talk about the guy who made headlines yesterday, and he's made a bunch of headlines all spring long, Big Jac Caglianone. It's hard not to get real excited about what that young man is doing in his first spring training. And what was even more intriguing about what he did yesterday is what I'll point out when we're talking Royals coming up in the next hour. Also, we got a lot of headlines to get to because, again, today is day 1 of NFL free agency. There's a lot that happened over the weekend that we'll try and touch on. We will try and mention as many moves as we possibly can that are relevant from this day in the National Football League coming up in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Want to hear from you in the YouTube comments. If you're watching on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk is the channel. You can also drop us a comment if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News. And the text line is open, 785-272-9429. Dan, Brendan, Spencer rocking with you. We got 45 more minutes. Come on back with us, 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you've been hanging out with us for the past couple of hours, thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate you. Well, different approaches, I suppose. We appreciate you.
What the hell's wrong with you?
You're having a fun Monday. Hanging out with your buddies here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Online at 580WIBW.com.
I'm not used to having friends. I don't know what it's like.
They're all just out of frame, laughing too. We're also on video, 580 Sports Talk at the YouTube channel, WIBW News on Facebook. We are with you until 5:45. We will break away for Westwood One's coverage of the Southern Conference Men's Basketball Championship game between Furman and Wofford. Double bonus points if you can name the mascots of the two teams.
Spencer, do you know? I know.
I knew Furman's at one point, but I don't anymore.
It is the Furman Paladins.
That's right.
And the Wofford Terriers.
Ding, ding, ding.
The Dins, as they're called in Spartanburg.
Yes.
You know who's going to be on the call for the games tonight?
I believe we've got a good crew. Robbie Hummel's on color.
It's Ryan Ranke.
Yeah. That is correct. Ryan Radke and Robbie Hummel on the call tonight. So good broadcast.
And then good old Jason Horowitz in the studio for the halftime update.
The icon. Robbie Hummel, doesn't own a home, right? He probably just rents for about 6 months. Then the rest, he's just out calling games every night.
He does. He
works for every network, too. He's on CBS. He's on Fox.
He's on the Big Ten Network.
Big Ten. Yeah, I mean, he's everywhere. The man's busy all the time. He does studio. He does games. He's everywhere. I like Robbie Hummel, though. I think he does a good job, which is surprising because when he was in college, boy, did I hate Robbie Hummel. His big, dumb ogre. Get off the floor. Get a job, man.
Just a rich man's Brian Cardinal.
He was a pretty good college player.
Yeah, he was. He was a really good player.
But yeah, I think he's pretty good. So I'm looking forward to this one tonight.
So yeah, be a good call. Again, 5:45 pregame, and that's what we got coming your way tonight.
It is funny this time of year when you see broadcast crews you're familiar with calling games involving teams that they are certainly not familiar with.
Roxy Bernstein and Sean Farnham have been a fixture on Big 12 games this year, particularly on the western half of the league.
Yeah.
A lot of the Utah, BYU, Arizona State games. So spent a lot of evenings this season with Roxy and Sean. They were doing the West Coast Conference tournament last night in Vegas.
Rich Hollenberg is doing the Sun Belt Championship.
He's doing those. He was doing some American games the other day. Was it Roxy or was it Fleming doing the WCC games?
I think you're right. I think it was Fleming and Farnham. I think you're right.
They were the Gonzaga crew.
Yeah.
They're just, Gonzaga's on ESPN. All right, Fleming and Farnham. Get them out to the kennel. By the way, while we're doing sports media talk here, if Fran Fraschilla was going to hang it up anytime soon, and I don't know that he is, but the ESPN needed a new go-to Big 12 color guy, I want it to be Sean Farnham. I think he is really good. I think he does a great job breaking it down. He's got a good personality. I like Sean Farnham.
Is he the guy? Sorry, I'm bad with names. Is he the guy that was on the K-State when they were at Utah? And
yes, he's the one who during
they had
the BYU game was like, "What the hell is wrong with Kansas? This is an embarrassment."
So that weekend, 3 games or 2 of the games had the same broadcast.
Yes.
No, 3 games had the same broadcaster because it was Saturday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I like Farnham a lot.
Yeah, I think he does a really nice job. That would be more of him and less King McClure and Scotty Williams would be outstanding.
Yes. Or he's a play-by-play guy, but what's the dude's name?
The worst.
Pete Sousa. Less Pete.
Sousa.
Way less Pete Sousa. Anyway, we've got
just hire us. I'll do it for free, man. People might hate it, but I'll be cheap.
Don't tell many people you do things for free.
Nah, I'd do it for free. My life's good. I'll do it for free. First one's free. How about that?
Yeah, first one's free if you try it, and then
free trial period.
Yeah, you get a trial period. Exactly. Let's get into some. We're gonna do some headlines. We're gonna talk a little Royals baseball as well in this final 45 minutes of the show. Hit us up 785-272-9429. It's the text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line. You can also comment in the live chat if you're watching on our YouTube stream, which again is 580 Sports Talk. And we'll just run down NFL transactions until we run out of them to run down. We'll start with the Chiefs and what they did over the weekend and today. Nick Bolton is returning to the middle of the Chiefs defense on a 3-year deal worth $45 million, $30 million of that guaranteed. Hollywood Brown also coming back. He'll give it another go with the Chiefs offense, a 1-year contract with the potential to make up to $11 million in escalators and incentives for Hollywood Brown. Today, the Chiefs agreed contract terms with offensive tackle Jalen Moore, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers. The 2-year deal worth $30 million, $21.24 million of that guaranteed. It is starter money for a player who has all of 12 career starts in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. It certainly seems as though he will have the inside track on being the starting left tackle. He started some games at left tackle last year in place of an injured Trent Williams in San Francisco. Another former 49er agreeing to terms with the Chiefs, Elijah Mitchell, running back, 1 year, $3.5 million. He's played just 27 games in his 4 NFL seasons, including missing all of 2024 due to a hamstring injury, but when on the field has shown some big play potential. Ran a 4.35 at the scouting combine in his draft year, brings some speed, ideally, to the running back room. A couple of Chiefs we know are not coming back to the team in 2025. Samaje Perine on a 1-year deal is heading back to Cincinnati, where his NFL career began. Also, within the last 20 minutes, we learned that wide receiver Justin Watson has a new home. He is signed with the Houston Texans. Terms of that one not disclosed, but Watson, after 3 years with the Chiefs, I believe, is moving on. 3 or 4?
I think it was 4 because the Chiefs, he was on the Buccaneers Super Bowl team. Yes. I think he joined the Chiefs after that because I know Brady always talked.
No, it was 3 years. It was 3 years.
Was it just 3?
He only played 1 game in 2021 with Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
he was on the Super Bowl team, but he only played 1 game in 2021, and then the last 3 seasons with the Chiefs, 50 games, 64 receptions, 7 touchdowns. Not a bad run for a wide receiver 4 and a former 5th-round pick, and the former
Penn, good for him getting paid again.
Yeah, the former Penn Quaker gets another opportunity.
Also,
with Houston.
You said Perine was a 1-year deal. It's a 2-year deal. Worth nearly $4 million.
Okay, I saw $2.8 million a year, and I must have assumed that was just 1 year. So, 2-year deal for Samaje Perine to go back to Cincinnati. So those 2 players, depth pieces, the skill positions, not returning for the Chiefs.
Far-fetched from what was falsely reported earlier today about the Bucs.
Yeah, there was a report out there that Perine was getting a 3-year deal for over $20 million. The Bucs GM went on social media and said this is a lie. This is not true. And duh.
All right, let's we'll just run them down. If there's anything to say about them, we'll just say it. Charvarius Ward, former Chief, former San Francisco 49er, 3 years, $60 million, $35 million guaranteed with the Indianapolis Colts. I like that deal for the Colts. And after a terrible year on a personal and professional level for Charvarius Ward in 2024, good for him for getting a fresh start.
Yeah, and I'm happy for him. I remember hearing at the end of the year that there was no bad blood with San Francisco, but he had to leave. Everyone knows what that's like. I just can't be here. I had too much personal tragedy. I can't be here any longer. This is really important for the Colts because and we'll just toss it in right now. They also signed Cam Bynum today. Safety had previously been in Minnesota. Decent player. I think was propped up by Flores' system a little bit, but he's a good player. They needed secondary help probably as much as any team in the NFL. Outside of Kenny Moore, it was awful. Juju Brents, unfortunately, didn't really take a step forward this year like they had kind of hoped he would. So they needed more talent there. And I'll tell you what, and I thought this when he got drafted out of K-State as well. I like Brents a lot more as a CB2 than a CB1. So I think this is a really good move for the Colts.
4 years, $48 million for free agent slot corner Nate Hobbs from the Green Bay Packers. Packer owner Brendan Dworzinski, thumbs up, thumbs down? Thumb in the middle?
I think I'm getting roasted on Twitter by... Yes, I am getting roasted on Twitter by Paul Hembo from Get Up on ESPN.
Oh.
I called him out for something about Garrett Cole, and he just liked the tweet from 2 years ago. Normal guy. You're making like $1 million, dude. Calm down.
Hembo.
Anywho, the Nate Hobbs deal, it's fine.
Okay.
It's $16 million guaranteed, 48 total value. It's fine.
Good stuff. Jeremy Chin signs with the Las Vegas Raiders to play safety, replacing Trevon Moehrig, who got a big deal from the Carolina Panthers earlier today. Trying to hit the moves that we did not hit when we were talking in the 4 o'clock hour. Obviously, there are some noteworthy ones, but we're trying not to do too much repeating of ourselves here because there are other headlines we want to get to. Grady Jarrett, former Pro Bowl defensive tackle for the Falcons, 3-year deal with the Bears, $28.5 million fully guaranteed, $43.5 million total value for Jarrett. I like that for the Bears.
Correct me if I'm wrong, he was cut this morning or yesterday.
Yeah, he was cut yesterday.
Yeah.
So, they did. They cut him yesterday. Bills signed Joshua Palmer, former Charger, to a 3-year, $36 million deal. That one kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I don't know about the fit. I saw some people say they loved the fit. I don't know that I love it, but he's a nice player. That's fine.
Well, what receiver is he going to be? He's going to be their third receiver? Fourth receiver? I mean...
Shakir, Coleman, and I guess he'd be their 3.
Yeah, but he's really number 2 on the outside because Shakir's going to do most of his work from the slot.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Hollins and Cooper, they're free agents, right?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Collins is a Jag anyway, and Cooper's a free agent.
Chicago Bears give Dayo Odenigbo 3 years, $48 million, $32 million guaranteed. Bears are really active. And we knew they would be. They had a ton of cap room.
Yeah.
They needed to raise their talent level.
I don't love that move as much as I like some of their others, admittedly.
I love their reworked offensive line.
Yeah, the line looks really good. They got the best center available today, Drew Dahlman.
Obviously, Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson at guard.
Yeah. I like what they've done with their offensive line more than and Odenigbo's fine, but
Big money for Josh Sweat. We knew that was coming after he could have won Super Bowl MVP. $76.4 million, including $41 million guaranteed with the Arizona Cardinals. He reunites with his former defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon.
He took less money than I thought he would.
I kind of thought it might be a bigger deal than that.
So the note, you mentioned it, Jonathan Gannon. You know who the defensive coordinator is for Arizona? Nick Rollis. You know what his previous job was? Philadelphia Eagles linebackers coach. I wonder if Josh Sweat was willing to take a little less to go play with his guys, which, hey, all the credit in the world to him.
Milton Williams, another star from Super Bowl 59 for the Eagles. He's going to the New England Patriots. Early reports had him going to the Panthers, but looks like it's going to be the Patriots instead. Don't know the details on that one yet, but it sounds like it's going to be about $26 million a year for the best interior pass rusher on the market.
They needed someone because it sounds like Christian Barmore might not be able to come back on a full-time basis, which sucks. It's a blood clot issue. That's always so scary. I loved the idea of him going to Carolina, of them spending big and pairing Derek Brown with Milton Williams. Like, oh, shoot, that's like a real defensive line. They can't rush the passer, but that's a real group up the middle. Sadly, it did not work out that way.
Yeah, $26 million a year.
This is one of my favorite moves of the day, given the value. The Detroit Lions signing DJ Reed, the former Kansas State Wildcat, 3 years, $48 million. Carlton Davis is who he'll replace in the Lions lineup. Davis got 3 years, $60 million, including $34.5 million guaranteed from the Patriots. That's the same number, 3 for $60, that Charvarius Ward got. I think DJ Reed's better than both guys.
Yeah, he's not $12 million worse. The thing with Reed is he's small, and that drives some teams away. But when you're talking about teams who are willing to take a smaller corner, I mean, I would have paid him more. I was surprised he didn't get more than that. And look, he's good. Like it's one thing when it's the draft and you've got thresholds you want to meet. If you can play in the NFL, you can play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised he didn't get more.
Speaking of more, Dan Moore got more money from the Tennessee Titans. Former starting offensive tackle for the Steelers got 4 years, $82 million, including $50 million guaranteed. If that was going to be the highest paid left tackle on the market, the Chiefs trying it with Jalen Moore makes a lot more sense. And saying, look, we'll spend less and see if maybe we can't develop Jalen Moore. And if it doesn't work out, we're out of the deal in a year, rather than say, we'll give $50 million in guarantees and $20.5 million a year to some mid, which Dan Moore is some mid.
Not according to former Chiefs personnel exec Mike Borgonzi.
What did he say?
He's the GM.
The one who gave him
I don't know if he had a quote or something about it.
No.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're desperate, you got to do desperate things, right? Their offensive line is an abomination. They had to do something. Unfortunately, this is a bad year to need a left tackle. Where do you think Jalen Moore, and not that I'm going to ask you to name the previous options necessarily, but where would you guess Moore was, like plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D? Like, where do you think Moore landed?
I think plan A was Ronnie Stanley. I really do.
Yeah.
And Stanley didn't make it back to free agency. He signed 3 years, $60 million with the Ravens, which I were the Chiefs, I would have given him that without hesitation.
Same.
I think that was plan A, and I think plan B was probably Jalen Moore.
There is something to be said for having trust in the staff you're already with. Because I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs did make that kind of offer. We know they're willing to spend for the right guys. But, Ronnie Stanley's been injured so much. He's been with those doctors, been in that system for so long. I wonder if that probably helped sway him to stay, too. I think the same with Chris Godwin, who signed earlier today with Tampa.
Yes, he did.
Sorry to jump the line on you. But he got a 3-year, $66 million, I think, from Tampa. And he's great character guy, great player. I think he's one of the best slot receivers in the entire NFL. Really good player. He's coming off an injury as well. He's halfway through his rehab. It kind of makes sense that, hey, these guys have treated me really well. They're taking care of me literally, physically here. They're going to pay me. I'll give up $5 million on the market. I'm already making enough. Like, I'll stay with what's comfortable.
Couple of other moves. Bengals re-signed B.J. Hill, 3 years, $33 million, $16 million guaranteed. Real good interior defensive tackle for the Bengals.
They also signed former Packer T.J. Slayton, who led the Packers in run stuffs this year. And if any team needed a guy like that, it's the Bengals.
Buccaneers also signed Hassan Reddick, 1 year, $14 million. Didn't really get going last year with the Jets.
Is that how much money he actually wants? Like, are we good on the contract?
He was the first guy to sign today, or he was the first guy to agree to terms after holding out for 10 weeks or whatever last year. First guy to sign today.
Khalil Mack's going back to the Chargers, 1 year, $18 million there. They keep one of their standout veteran pass rushers. And I think that about covers it. That's about everything that we didn't cover with the Chiefs or in the 4 o'clock hour of today's show, unless I missed one in the last 5 minutes. So
I don't think so.
Yeah, busy day. And if we didn't get to it at all, then it didn't matter. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about Josh Dobbs. Who cares? Next headline, Brendan.
All right, let's go to the Big 12. Our headline from Big12Sports.com. The Phillips 66 All Big 12 Men's Basketball Awards have been announced for this year. I am going to preface this by saying the Big 12, you done goofed. You screwed up. There are not 10 players on the floor for a basketball team.
How can you have a 10-man all-league team?
And you know what? If you want to say we're going to have a 10-man all-league team and we're only going to do first and second team, fine. They still did first, second, third, and honorable mention. You can't have that many. I'm sorry to sound like I'm 85 years old.
Participation trophies.
You don't need the all-conference participation awards, guys. You don't.
I do
Make 5 of them honorable mentions and move on.
I don't know if this is new. I don't remember it from last year, but the one team that Zeke Mayo made, the newcomer team.
That might be new.
I like that. I like that they're doing that.
I do too, because there's so many transfers for freshmen. I agree with you. Cool with that. You don't need 10 guys to make first team all league.
No, unless there's a bunch of ties, which I doubt. I honestly felt like the first 5 to me were pretty self-explanatory. I thought Toppin, who ended up winning Player of the Year, JT Toppin from Texas Tech. I thought Toppin, LJ Cryer, Curtis Jones, Caleb Love, and Hunter Dickinson was your first 5. Maybe you could argue me into Javon Small over Love or Cryer, but like that to me was a totally fine first team. And then your second team could have been the other 5 guys: Norshad Ormir from Baylor, Richie Saunders from BYU, Jawan Roberts from Houston, Curtis Jones, Iowa State, Darian Williams from Texas Tech. Like, if that's your first and second team, then your second team is your third team, and your third team is your fourth team. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But you don't need, there's no 10-man all-league basketball team. That's not the way the sport is played.
No.
You play with 5 on the court.
So goddamn annoying. The other individual honors, Dan already mentioned JT Toppin, your Player of the Year in the Big 12. I think that's the right call. I think that's the right pick.
Yeah, I talked myself into that.
Defensive Player of the Year for the second straight season, JoJo Tugler from Houston. The Scholar Athlete of the Year is LJ Cryer. Freshman, VJ Edgecombe. Yeah, duh. Newcomer, also JT Toppin. Sixth Man of the Year, Curtis Jones. That's wild, as he was also first team all-league. Most improved, Richie Saunders of BYU. And Coach of the Year, I also believe this was certainly right, Kelvin Sampson from Houston. Your local guys who have been honored, Dan already mentioned that Hunter Dickinson made it on the first team. Yep, I think that was justified for sure. Zeke Mayo, all Big 12 third team. He was also on the all newcomer team. Meanwhile, for K-State, Coleman Hawkins was an all Big 12 third team member this year. And each program, KU and K-State, had one honorable mention. Juwan Harris, honorable mention for KU. David Gasson, honorable mention for K-State.
I don't know how you could have watched Kansas State this year and decided that Coleman Hawkins was third team and David Gasson was honorable mention.
Yeah, I flipped him.
That absolutely boggles my mind.
I would have flipped him.
I feel like KJ over Dewan.
So I see where you're coming from. The reason they went with Harris, because, and this has been clear for 3 or 4 years now, coaches in this conference love DeJuan Harris. And as much as some KU fans want to complain, and I understand a lot of the complaints, especially with the way he played down the stretch this year, but for all the complaints you may have as a fan about DeJuan Harris, you could go ask 16 head coaches in the Big 12, and every single one of them would tell you, I want DeJuan Harris starting on my team. And I'm not just saying that because I'm DeJuan's number one fan. Many of these coaches have said it. Kelvin Sampson, who's got a team full of mutants who all play nasty, nasty, nasty defense, like, yes, I want DeJuan Harris. The coaches love him.
Yeah.
That's why he's going to get these honors every time. For other notes, all defensive team, Jaden Quaintance from Arizona State, Juwan Roberts and JoJo Tugler from Houston, Taman Lipsey from Iowa State, Sincere Harris from West Virginia. All freshman team, Quintance again, VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, Robert Wright from Baylor, Igor Demon from BYU, Christian Anderson, not to be confused with Hans from Texas Tech. All newcomer teams, Zeke Mayo, as we mentioned, JT Toppin, Joshua Jefferson of Iowa State, Keyshawn Hall of UCF, Norshad Omier of Baylor.
I mostly think they got the big awards right. Like, I don't have a lot of complaints here. And like I said, I thought the top 10 guys were there. Like, if you wanted to really advocate for Keyshawn Hall because he led the league in scoring, or DJ Edgecombe because he's the best NBA prospect in the league to be on the first team, fine. But I think they got it right. Like, I think they got the 10 guys right. I just think they should have split them up into 2 different teams because that's how basketball works. Spencer, do you have a headline for us?
Yes, I'm going to switch the headline from what it was because it's kind of changed here. According to ESPN.com, New York Yankees ace Jarrett Cole to have Tommy John surgery, going to miss the entirety of the 2025 season. It was suggested earlier, it was reported earlier that there was a suggestion for him to get it, and now he will have the surgery tomorrow. Lucas Gill is going to be into the starting rotation. Or no, he's actually hurt as well. He was the reigning AL Rookie of the Year. He suffered a lat strain. He's expected to sideline him for at least 3 months. So without those two guys, the current rotation looks like this: Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, and looks like Marcus Stroman might get a shot.
Well, he said he wasn't a reliever, and he's not going to relieve. By the way, it is Garrett Cole and Luis Heel.
I'm going to give you a hot take. That's not a playoff team.
No.
I am wondering right now if the Yankees have the horses to make it to October. They are very Aaron Judge dependent on offense after the loss of Juan Soto. And if they're going to miss their horse for the entire season, and the guy who might have been
their next best pitcher
for half of the season at least, you're counting on Max Fried to stay healthy, which he hasn't really done. Carlos Rodon to stay healthy, also a dicey proposition. Yeah, man, I don't know. And
Marcus Stroman to be competent again?
Be your fourth guy?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I do. I think it sets them back from being a team that competes to win the East to being a team that's kind of fighting for wild card scraps. I would certainly, as of today, I would have Boston and Baltimore above them without thinking too hard.
I want to add something else to this. This is a personal anecdote here. Baseball is getting out of control. We've talked about this on numerous levels. The money's getting out of control. First, Garrett Cole in 2019 signed a 9-year, $324 million deal to stay through New York and through 2028. There was an opt-out. He opted out last year. Then they gave him a $144 million contract this offseason. Who's going to turn 35 this year? He won't pitch until at least 2026. I mean, it's just getting out of hand.
Yeah, but would you rather
probably
not have Garrett Cole
going to the Hall of Fame? Like, he's a 6-time All-Star, Cy Young Award winner. He's led the league in strikeouts twice. That's the guy you give all the money to.
At 34?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
like pitchers like that have tended to age really, really well. Like, obviously, it's unfortunate that Cole's elbow went crisproing and he's not going to pitch for a year, maybe a year plus. But like, you look at power pitchers have aged really well in their mid-30s and even into their late 30s. Guys like Justin Verlander were still really effective into their late 30s. So, like this is the guy that you look at without really an appreciable injury history before last year. And that's absolutely a guy you give that kind of money to.
Like here's
Max
the thing.
Fried, you want to gripe about the Max Fried contract. I think you gotta gripe, but
Amazon Prime is going to exclusively air 21 New York Yankees games this year. A, if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm pissed. But B, if you're the Yankees and you just got Amazon money for an eighth of your schedule, you're spending that money. Yeah, you better spend that money. Otherwise, if I'm a fan, I'm throwing a freaking riot. So, yeah, I mean, they've got them. You got to spend it on someone, and, spend it on a Hall of Famer.
Those are our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Royals baseball here on 580 Sports Talk. .535 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer. Got about 10 more minutes left with you today. We're going to take off after that for some Westwood One coverage of college basketball conference championship action in the SoCon tonight, Wofford and Furman. Royals fell today to the Guardians 5-2 in Cactus League play. Not much really jumps out from the box score. Not much particularly good. Tough outing for Chris Bubich, really his first rough one of the spring. 2 runs on 3 hits, only 1 walk, but no strikeouts. And he did give up a home run to somebody named Wilson. Wade Wilson. Will Wilson, actually, is his name. Will Wilson. What a name. Anyhow, it was a lot more fun yesterday for the Royals because Jac Caglianone hit a home run that sounded like a mortar shell going off. Something like 112 miles an hour off the bat. It's his 3rd home run of the spring. It's just 11 at-bats. So it's the smallest of small sample sizes. But his OPS starts with a 2. And that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the other thing that jumps out about the damage he did yesterday, the home run and the double that he hit, was that it was against big league pitchers. Aaron Savali was the starting pitcher for the Brewers yesterday, and Jac Caglianone hit one off of him to smithereens. And then he jumped a first pitch fastball from Nestor Cortez, who's a former All-Star, gonna make the Brewers opening day roster, and jumped it for a first pitch double. So it's nice to see him do it against big league pitching. He's walked 3 times. He's only struck out once. It's getting harder and harder to quell the notion that he might be one of the Royals' best hitters right this second. It's ludicrous to say it after 11 spring training at bats, but on the flip side, ball go far.
Yeah.
Ball go far. And again, if they start slow as a team offensively and Jack's hitting 300 at AA, because I think he'll start at AA, I think that the drums will beat ever louder. He is a Royal that is trending up in the spring, per RoyalsReview.com writer Trenton Kraxner, friend of the program, former intern of the program. Has got a good piece at Royals Review today. Who's trending up, who's trending down through the first couple of weeks of spring training. Big Jack, obviously trending up. My guy, MJ Melendez. He's got a couple of dingers, hitting 300.
What are we doing?
He's right. He's had a good spring. It's a good spring.
I can't wait for a little off track here. I can't wait for like that one bad week of the season and Trenton's takes on his Royals Review post.
He's burning the site down.
Yeah.
He's ready to trade
From
everybody.
what he had last summer with us.
Oh yeah. We thought the Fulton Caster Fuller coaster was something, and then we met Trenton.
Look, man,
living and dying.
I hope MJ has a great year. I hope he does. I am not going to hitch my wagon to that horse.
Daniel Lynch also having a good spring. 2 runs allowed over 10 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts in that mix, and he certainly kept his name alive for a shot at that 5th starter's role. Trending the wrong way, Carlos Hernandez. I thought I was the biggest Carlos Hernandez defender, but Trenton Kraxner says he is. So I guess we can have it out next time we see each other. But hasn't been a great spring for him. Nelson Velasquez having a really rough spring, just 1 for 23.
Yeah, it's time to sell that stock.
That's feeling like an end of camp DFA at this point. So
hey, you can make a good living as a quad A player.
yeah, you certainly can. Or in Japan, where they don't throw the ball doesn't spin as much.
Sure.
Is the
KBO legend Nelson Velasquez.
Before we take our final timeout, I want to tell you folks about my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. 5 outstanding golf courses, and I'm gonna tell you, I got the itch out there today. 70-degree weather, sun shining, snow melted. I can't wait to get back out on the links, and I hope to see some of you out there on the links at one of the outstanding Great Life golf courses. Being a member has terrific benefits, including free greens fees, free cart rental, free range balls if you're an all-inclusive member. You want to sign up for that today if you're a serious golfer. It's the way to golf in Topeka. Go to greatlifetopeka.com. Our final word is next on 580 Sports Talk. Final word time here on 580 Sports Talk as we make way for some college basketball conference championship action tonight. Spencer Dupuy, give it to me.
Yeah, we didn't get to it, but just broke here at 5:30. The Panthers have picked up former Chiefs defensive lineman Turk Wharton to a 3-year, $54 million max contract with $30 million guaranteed. Turk, get that bag.
That is a
him,
lot
man.
of money.
Chiefs couldn't afford
Turk
that.
Wharton. No, they could not. There was no chance they were meeting that price. Brendan Brzezinski, final word.
Yeah, my final word is that this Chiefs offseason, I think Dan put it well earlier in the show, you can sum up with one word. Fine. Hasn't been bad. Hasn't been, great. I think free agency, the same thing. Fine contract for Nick Bolton. Fine risks on both Jalen Moore and on Elijah Mitchell. It's fine across the board, which isn't necessarily bad. It's also not necessarily good. I understand the gambles, but tells you just how important the draft is going to be at the end of next month. Chiefs hit that, looking great. Don't hit on that, might have some longer-term questions.
Fine's all an offseason ever needs to be when you're going into it off of 15-2 and going to a Super Bowl for the third straight year, and when you've got the best quarterback and the best head coach in the league. It didn't need to be earth-shattering. That being said, Jalen Moore is certainly a risk, but it's a calculated one based on how a not very impressive left tackle market was moving. And so I am not surprised. And in fact, I think it could end up being a very savvy move if it works out that the way the Chiefs hope. They're going to have to develop him a bit. But Jalen Moore, I think at $30 million total, I think I might rather have that than Dan Moore at the $50 million guarantee, the $82 million that he's getting from the Titans as the top of the market left tackle. That'll do it for us. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 5 before K-State at the Big 12 tournament. For Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. It's 5A Sports Talk. Good night.